Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Golden Gloves Chat Show. My very, very special guest this week, Mr. Bongani Magasela. This guy has done it all in boxing. He's been around. Bongani, you're the senior sports writer for the Sowetan. You're on the BSA sanctioning committee. You've really done it all in boxing. But the viewers don't always know that. They just see your fantastic stories in the Sowetan every day. Tell us where it all started for Bongani Magasela in boxing.
It's a very, should I say, interesting story. It all began in the 80s, 70s maybe, in the farm where I was born. It used to be called Krimen, a Landslacht in Ladysmith. My father was a boxer, not a professional but an amateur. My brothers from other mothers were also boxers. One of them actually trained together with the Malinga family.
Okay.
Max and them, Sugar Boy was still young. He's the one who actually started training me when I was like, the first time I wore boxing gloves I was 8 years old. And it's been boxing all the way. I played football as well, but unfortunately the boxing bug,
Yes.
once it catches you, you don't want cure.
Absolutely.
I boxed as an amateur for a very long time. Moved to Johannesburg because our father had two houses, Our fathers used to come teach or back work, and they ended up having, homes here. So what happened was I joined Golden Glove Stable, which was closer, a walking distance from home.
Yes.
Soweto is Zondi. That is where the late Jacob Dancing Shoes Morake trained. He was my gym mate.
Yes.
But because I got involved in many things than one, football, politics and stuff, I didn't proceed with boxing as such. I can claim to have been a very good boxer. And
I can imagine that. You've got
yes.
the boxing brain. Fantastic.
That's right. So that is how it all started. And what happened was, while I was still an amateur boxer obviously at the Golden City Stable, Jablan Hostel, Billy Cooper and Magbe wrote Boxing for Supper. Billy Cooper was a soccer writer for the same company. They used to visit our gym. Funny things happened. This is a small world. Many years later, I ended up working for Supper. And I met Billy Cooper and Maga said, I think I know you from somewhere. Haven't you got to do with boxing? Yes. Oh, man, yeah, you're right. You used to come to our gym and interview Jake. Oh, that was it. This man was supposed to have been a lawyer by profession. But accidentally, I thought, you know what? Let me get involved in boxing, try and contribute to the sport that was in my DNA.
Fantastic. Well, sadly, you didn't pursue it, like you said, as an amateur. You did as an amateur, but not as a pro. But you've made it in everything else in boxing. You are a boxing man. You kind of boxing historian in this country as well, I would say. And you've really done it all. So I want to talk to you about so many things. It's so great to have you as my guest. Let's start off by the unfortunate passing of Zine Guni, the manager and trainer, on the weekend, died at the hospital in East London. What a magnificent man, what a legend for the sport, and it would be a great loss. I mean, I'll just start off by mentioning some of the fighters that he trained. Who can ever forget the great Vuyani Bungu, 13-time IBF champion of the world, Welcome Nita, unloved, Hawk Makapula, and that's just some of the names. He trained so many great legends. What did you say about the man, Zine Guni?
Brian, before I talk about Mzi, maybe I should mention this. I used to dislike you.
Me?
Yes.
Personally.
Why? We would train so hard, assisting Jake to beat you, but
Okay.
man, you would just,
Thank you.
do the unexpected all the time. The 4 wins were no fluke. You worked hard, you deserved it. He tried his best up until the end.
Thanks for those of you that don't know what you're actually saying, Jacob Maraki was one of your friends and one of your sparring partners in the townships in Soweto in the day. And of course, we had those 4 fights. The only guy to ever beat me, and sadly also passed away in our 4th fight. But yeah, so we lost Jacob Maraki many years ago, and now of course Zine Guni, the man himself.
Regarding Bramzi, it's, the death is something that we don't get used to. It's sad. But his passing away didn't sadden me. It came to me as some form of a relief because I saw the man suffer.
Yes.
Uh,
The last few years were tough. Yeah.
Ramzi was never the same since he was involved in an accident in 2014. I went to visit him at St. Dominic Hospital. He didn't recognize me. Fortunately, I was with the promoter, Andy Lestinil. You know, he tried to speak, to remind him, and eventually, you know, his memory came back and we started talking. I looked at him and I said, I hope this man recovers, because if he doesn't, he is actually gonna be alive but dead, because he will not be able to do things one by himself, do things that he liked, attending boxing matches, going into the gym. We all had prayers that, God please, whatever happened, may this man recover. Unfortunately, he didn't. When you talk about Mzi, you talk about a giant.
Yes.
Arrogant in a very good way, smart dresser, very confident, gentleman, controversial at times. All of a sudden, he's been reduced to a pale shade of himself on a wheelchair.
Yeah, that's very sad, Bongs. I agree with you. A great man that we lost. But due to ill health, it obviously was a better thing. Sometimes better if a guy passes on and goes and rests, when you so ill at health. But a legendary guy in his time. He was with me in Italy even when I fought Jackie Beard. My son, who's now 34, Brian Jr., was in his arms at the Jackie Beard fight. Welcome Mita was one of my sparring partners overseas. So we had a great relationship, myself and Zine. Rodney Berman will tell you that it's very sad times for him. They were big friends. They were business partners in all the fighters that Zinguni managed and trained. So, really sad times losing Zinguni. Any fondest memories of the great man?
Funny, I'm going to mention something that has absolutely nothing to do per se with boxing. Ramzi was such a nerve-wrack, if I can call it that way, when it comes to boxing. If that man would blow a packet of 30 cigarettes before his fighter got into the ring, just to calm his nerves. And at one point I wrote that story. He wanted to kill me. How could you write such a story? Yes. That story actually turned the whole thing into a very cordial relationship that we had. Look, let's talk about Mzi, a boxing trainer now, manager, come promoter. The country has lost. I don't know how to actually, I don't have a proper way to describe Ramzi.
Like you said,
but
a giant in the game.
Yes, we've got to start from the beginning. Give credit to Golden Gloves, because he would have been a great trainer, but if he didn't have a promoter dedicated to his fighters, probably he would not have achieved what he did. So the union, the working relationship that they had, bore fruits for the country, not only for themselves. What saddens me most about everything is that we keep talking about achievements by our people when they are gone. There's one thing missing from the government side, that Hall of Fame. People remember Brian Mitchell now because you're still alive. They see you on TV. There are write-ups here and there. When you are gone, they will remember you for a month or two. I'm talking about the general public, not the family. That will be it. When you have a Hall of Fame, the generations to come, your grandchildren, whomever they are, will go to that place to look at all the names that are, inducted in that Hall of Fame and say, we are from a great family.
You and I in the boxing fraternity will be fighting with the government for the rest of our lives to get a South African Hall of Fame. I agree with you. Unfortunately, we don't have one. We've only got an international boxing Hall of Fame. But thank you, Zinguni. I agree with you. It was nice when Golden Gloves did the tribute to Z a few years ago with Nkosanathi Joy challenging some Pee Wee Conker for that IBO title. And Z sat at the ringside and he just loved it. He was in a wheelchair and he sat there with tears in his eyes as they gave him the tribute. Great man. Let's get back to the boxing side. It's all boxing, but we lost a good man. Let's talk 14th of March, D-Day, the big our next big show, Golden Glove show at Empress Palace. You've got Rainer Liebenberg, the Lion. You've got Rowan Campbell, who's undefeated, 12-0, the brave heart as they call him. The undefeated youngster against Rainer Liebenberg, who's had 28 fights, 20 wins. What did you think of that fight when you heard it was signed?
Before I make my opinion public, I've got to say something. I'm just a student of the game, Brian. If you say I've done it all and seen it all, people will think whatever I say it's the gospel truth. No. I'm a non-entity, I'm an ant in this sport of boxing. I'll learn until, infinity. Now, you talk about Reino versus Rowan Campbell. I foresee a situation where we could see ourselves witnessing a Victor Galindes, Richie Cates type of a fight, which took place in at Ren Stadium, I think in 1976. You have these two gentlemen with a similar style of fighting. I foresee them meet in the center of the ring, sometimes or somehow crashing into each other. That is part of boxing. Why am I raising that? Is because I want to say, I hope BSA appoints a very experienced referee who is not going to be emotional, see blood and then stop the fight. No. Get a referee who knows and understands the intricacies, the blood, the whatnot of boxing. A person who's going to be relaxed, not to act irrationally and stuff like that to try and save a boxer from a cut or whatsoever. Because if that was the case, Richie Cates would have won his fight against Victor Galindes. They cut that round, blood streaming like a river, thanks to Stan Christodoulou's shirt, which he used to wipe blood from the third round to come back and knock the man out in the 15th round. With that blood, most referees of today would have stopped that fight early. So I foresee a similar situation with Reino and Rowan Campbell. Very interesting fight, or matchup, so to speak. I must say that if you want to know how do I feel about the actual fight itself, first and foremost, I want to give credit to Reino for promising to donate his best money to children, their charity, and one can only hope that he attracts or he gets more sponsors. As he said, that the more sponsors he gets, the more foundations he kind of reaches. But the boxing front is, I foresee a slugfest, non-stop energy sapping fight between these two gentlemen who do not understand or who do not take a step back.
They both come to fight.
They both come to fight. And Campbell, young, fresh, up and coming, hungrier. Reino, seasoned fighter. The legs, I don't think legs are still there. He's been to wars.
Yes.
And man is not a steel, It takes one punch to either make or break you in this game. And from what I've seen of Rowan Campbell, at first when I first saw, I thought, pretender to the throne. But he's shown something, and he's a fearless young man who I believe, if things go the way they look now, I won't be surprised to wake up one day and actually get news that he's a world champion. So I don't see the fight go the full distance.
So you're leaning towards Rowan Campbell?
I'm leaning towards Rowan Campbell by a knockout, late rounds, 8-9.
I must tell you, I had Harold Vorbrecht and Damien Durant in as our guests as well last week. Harold Vorbrecht seems to lean towards the experienced Rainer Liebenberg. Damien Durant was kind of 50-50 leaning towards the youngster. I tend to agree with you. I think the youngster, the undefeated youngster, is going to carry through. He's 10 years younger. And I just think he's going to have the legs, like you said, which Rainer Liebenberg, but as you know, in boxing, none of us are ever right.
Sure.
100% anyway. You don't know what's going to happen. Rainer Liebenberg is a warrior, he's a horse, he's a lion, he comes to fight. And the same for Rowan Campbell, these two guys, so I expect a great fight. Well, Bongs, we've said so much about this local fight, Rowan Campbell and Rainer Liebenberg. Local is so lekker. I mean, if you think about the great fights I had with Jacob Maraki, the Arthur Marcella, Harold Volbrecht, Kessis Bloy, Philip Indou, going back, Kali Knutzer, Gerrie Coetzee, you had Hawk Makapula fighting baby Jack McClellan. Any favourites that stand out for you?
Yeah, the local matchups, there has to be something more about them, not these two boxers getting inside the ring and destroying each other. I want to mention your lockup, your matchups with Jake. The world had to stand up and, give you all the available opportunities after defeating Jake 4 times, because the entire country beyond color line stood behind you. You were the reigning South African champion.
Thanks.
So defeating Jake 4 times, there was nothing more to do.
That next level, elevates
right.
you.
It happened to Philip Ndou against Cassius Baloy. The fire and ice bout, about it, the energy sapping, coincidentally staged by Rodney Berman again at Carnival City. There's so many of them. But the important thing is there has to be something more to local fights than the two local boxers destroying each other. That's for me.
Yeah, no, local is definitely lekker. So Rainer Liebenberg, Rowan Campbell is going to be a cracker. I agree with you. Both guys come into the centre of the ring and it's going to be a war. And that's on the 14th of March, D-Day, at Empress Palace on the Golden Glove Show. Okay, Bongs, before I let you go, on the same card, on the 14th of March at Empress Palace on the Golden Glove Show, we've got 2 youngsters that are fighting, both undefeated, potential, I say, superstars. A guy by the name of Ricardo Marajic, I mean, a lot of people might not name. 7-0, hasn't looked great in his last 2 outings or so, but you can see that potential there. What do you think about Ricardo Malajica, who faces Sabelo Ngubiyani, the SA champion, 8-round fight on this tournament?
Yes, before I respond to that, Brian, I wanted to, say something regarding Reino and Campbell. If Campbell can't beat Reino, then there's a big problem. Then it means it's not a long-time investment, because Reino has been to the international,
Of course, that's the main
fight.
fight.
Yes.
On the card.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to add. Ricardo versus Sabelo Ngubiyani. Look, the one thing that I picked up about or on Ricardo is that he spent quality time in the amateurs. Yes, if you look at his fight record and watch what he does inside the ring, it's 2 contrasting things. You don't think it's actually this person with this fight record, because the expectation is just too much,
yes,
when we should actually give the young man
the
opportunity to grow. And it's also the professional range, it's not the amateurs. It's a completely different story altogether. Correct. The young man has got potential.
And he's now with trainer Vusi Matola, so he's moved on, left Anton Diomo. We'll only know on the 14th of March if it's a good move or not. But Vusi is a very good trainer. He works very hard. He's great on the hand pads of the guys. So we look forward to that fight as well. Ricardo Malajica, the undefeated youngster in the junior bantamweight division, and he fights Sabelo Ngubiyani, the South African champion, over 8 rounds. Then a new signing for Golden Gloves. An interesting guy, has been kind of hanging around for the last couple of years. Former South African junior featherweight champion, IBF Intercontinental champ, Laduma Lamati. Why he hasn't been used more often, I don't know. He's undefeated as a professional, 17-0 basically. Golden Gloves jump on the opportunity to sign him up. What do you think about Laduma Lamati?
Sad story, Brian. Wasted talent. You see, by now, either Lutumo should be referred to as a former world champion or
correct,
current champion.
Correct.
I just don't understand what happened. Why couldn't promoters actually sign him up? Because he's a great talent.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe it has to do with people behind him, not taking advantage of the media to kind of, talk to journalists, to write stories about him. Because for me, he's a full package.
Yeah.
He's got everything that you need from a fighter. And
thanks, I agree with you.
Now that he's got a promoter dedicated to him,
Yes,
busy promoter like Ronnie Perman, I think the future looks very bright.
Thanks. Yeah, I think he just got a bit lost in the boxing world from himself, not knowing where he wanted to be from his London to being in London itself and moving around from promoter to promoter. But yeah, Golden Gloves has signed him up now. Laduma Lamati will fight in a rematch against Saad Muhammad Hassan on the 14th of March at Empress Palace on the Golden Glove show. We look forward to that. And there's talks as well of him getting a world title fight on the 1st of June, should he come through well against Saad Muhammad Hassan. So that's Laduma Lamati. Thank you very much for being my guest. I think it's time to shake hands now. I think Cyril Ramaphosa will be okay with that. Fantastic guest. Thank you very much, Bongani, and look forward to seeing you at ringside. From me, Brian Mitchell. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.